Hey, man, I don't feel like going to school no more. Me neither.
The Stray Cats had become stars in England, only to find themselves unwelcome there after just 2 albums. But the band still had a few British fans in high places. In the spring of '81, they returned to the U.S. with an invitation to open for the Rolling Stones' American tour.
I think anyone that gets to the point where they tour with the Rolling Stones, they're suddenly just blessed with an audience that almost no one else could acquire.
The massive exposure helped the Cats land a stateside record deal, and in June '82, they released Built for Speed, a compilation of songs from the band's 2 English releases. The Cats' retro rock was the perfect antidote to the new wave numbers ruling the charts.
Music had gotten to a stage where it was very kind of electronic, very synth-based, and then all of a sudden you have this wonderfully stripped-down 3-piece with this great guitar player.
We got in the road, and we started to play, and the audience was starting to go nuts, like in England. And all of a sudden, the radio started playing Stray Cat Strut.
I got cat class and I got cat style.
And radio stations weren't the only outlets willing to showcase the band. So was fledgling music network MTV, which saw contemporary cool in the Stray Cats' classic look.
Hi, we're the Stray Cats.
You're watching MTV Music Television.
You'll never look at music the same way again.
Tattoos, the hair, Brian with his looks, and this huge guitar. All of a sudden it was like, wow, rebels, man, gangsters. That's about as cool as you can ever get in rock and roll.
People were dressing rockabilly, dressing like me. People had gotten the same tattoos as me. It was wild.
By November of '82, Built for Speed had hit number 2 on the album charts, a position it would hold for 15 consecutive weeks. The Stray Cats had taken a forgotten piece of pop's past and molded it into a modern-day sensation. Then in May of '83, the Stray Cats found themselves headlining the biggest musical event of the decade, the US Festival in Devore, California.
And I just looked at the audience, like 1 million people. Think of 1 million people. And I looked at it and they had the Diamond Vision thing, and my head was on the Diamond Vision.
For Setzer, it was the high point in a dizzying ride. 3 years earlier, he'd been trying to convert crowds to his music. Now he couldn't escape them.
I couldn't walk out my door. I remember waking up. I got this little condo kind of deal in Massapequa, when I woke up in my underwear, and there's like 6 girls looking in the window.
The other 2 guys got more into living in the limelight. And Brian was always thinking about music. That's all he really cared about, was music.
I kind of went further into my shell. I didn't want to go out. Started doing some drugs. That made it even worse, you know. And started drifting even farther apart from the guys, I guess.
And there was more trouble ahead. In the summer of '83, the band released Rant and Rave. The record produced a hit single called She's Sexy in '17, but overall it sold less than half what the US debut album had managed. Critics were quick to pounce.
Oh, Rockabilly's over, you know, the record's no good and you suck. Okay, I suck.
I mean, it's like Adam West being Batman. I mean, what is he ever going to do but be Batman? You are the Rockabilly Kings, and that's all it's going to be. Sorry.
The band's popularity was waning, and Brian's differences with Slim Jim Phantom and Lee Rocker only grew.
I was resentful because they were going out looking for Playboy bunnies, and I had to sit in my hotel room to try and write the next hit.
They were kind of mama's babies, I thought. Brian was always more grown up. He wasn't afraid of hard work or anything.
Jim was such a bastard. I got so pissed off at him in Texas, I just decked him. He stood up and I went, wham.
Slim Jim Phantom and Lee Rocker declined requests to be interviewed by Behind the Music. But Brian remembers it as a time of great disillusionment. In September of '84, he picked up the phone and called Jim. It was the last conversation they would have for 3 years.
Brian just called one day and just said, listen, I think we've run out of gas, and this is about as much as we can do.
And instead of getting, hey, get on the next plane, get out here. Let's talk about this. He was like, okay, fine, great, the band's over, goodbye. Hung up the phone on me.
And we agreed. You know, it's definitely time for everyone to move on. I mean, there was no mudslinging. Everyone's still friendly.
The three were totally different personalities, and there was no one to put them back together.
Brian had devoted 5 years of his life to leading the Rockabilly revolution. Without the Cats, he was lost.
I mean, here's a guy that's 30 years old figuring the career is over, you know? You know, he really was in a quandary about it. He really didn't know what to do about it.
Anxious to begin a new chapter in his life, Brian married newspaper reporter Deanna Morgan on Valentine's Day in '84, and soon afterward they had a son, Cody. Brian decided it was also time to take his career in a new direction.
I wanted to try something a little different. Try something a little more electric sounding, a little more rock, and a little less rockabilly.
Brian embraced a more modern style with the release of The Knife Feels Like Justice.
How do you like being the boss now? You're the performer, you're the solo guy. It's your ass.
Yeah,
basically.
I like being Setzer, I'll tell you.
But the album didn't cut it with the public.
Certainly to me and to the public, it looked like here's a guy trying to outrun his image and become something else, and I don't want it. I don't dig it.
I used to search for the ideal girl.
Critics were calling me, you know, a haircut. Man, I could play that guitar. That I knew I could do. I wanted to prove that I had a little substance.
But his solo efforts went nowhere, and by August of '88, Brian was ready to return to the rockabilly music he loved. The first step was breaking the ice with Jim and Lee.
I just humbled myself and called them. Come on, you want to play? I don't care if we make a record. Let's play some music. And we did.
1, 2, 3. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back again. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back again.
Well, the Stray Cats, a group that, like so many other American acts, had to go to England to make it big with their very American music, is back on the scene after a 4-year layoff.
Over the next 3 years, the Cats tried to duplicate their old success, something that grew harder with each passing month.
We were signed to nothing labels, and it felt like I was just writing songs, and they were throwing them up in the wind. You know, hey, here's the best song. I really worked hard on this song. Check it out. Next, what else you got?
It's a hard one. And ego-wise, it's a definite big blow.
And Brian's romance with rockabilly wasn't the only love that was dying. His marriage was coming apart as well.
We met at the end of the big party. I kind of continued that kind of lifestyle and the rock and roll thing and going to clubs. And when we woke up one day from all that, there was nothing in common.
I saved a place.
By early '90, Brian's marriage to Deanna Morgan was over. But he wasn't quite ready to give up on the Stray Cats. The band decided to give it one last shot and enlisted the producer who'd made their first hit record, Dave Edmunds. But the album, Choo Choo Hot Fish, got a decidedly cold reception.
It certainly wasn't a cannon shot across pop culture. It was kind of a little whisper.
We played for 4 years, and we knew that we'd kind of run our course, and something else came along.
Brian had reached back to the '50s to produce a string of smash hits. Now he would look even further into America's musical past for an astonishing success. Next, Brian's bright idea.
How many times can you say in your life you've come up with something really that no one else has ever done before?
And later, Brian's radical vision is validated.
They said, well, we're applauding for you. I said, what do you mean? You just won a Grammy. And I missed it.
When Behind the Music continues.